You know, more and more nowadays, it seems that every time you turn around, there's an athlete that's being accused of taking human growth hormones or steroids or something that might help them take a few shortcuts in order to achieve some success. And it's grown quite rapidly, unfortunately. And I tell you something. I think where we are nowadays as a society, I think we need to understand what it is that we're supporting. I think we need to come to a full realization that these are human beings and the tasks that are asked of them are superhuman. And there are many instances, if not most, where they are going to need some kind of, I don't know, assistance, help, whether it be through therapy, whether it be through drugs or whatever. They're going to have to take some of these drugs in order to maintain such a high standard of ability of performance. I'm not saying that it's right. I'm not even going to say that I condone it, but we need to understand some things, especially in the NFL. You take a sport that requires men to line up on both sides of the ball, and once that ball is hiked, they're crashing into each other constantly, constantly crashing into each other, constantly crashing into each other, constantly crashing into each other. And although they do have unprotected, you know, equipment like the helmets and the shoulder pads and what have you, these athletes are getting stronger and faster every year. I would say every day, but let's just keep it at every year. They're getting stronger and stronger and faster and faster. Can you imagine a 350-pound lineman that can run a 4.5 40? Well, imagine that, all right? And he's lined up in very close proximity against his opponent, okay? And once that ball is hiked, they're crashing against each other and trying to push and trying to, push their will against each other. And eventually that's going to catch up with you. That's going to catch up with you, and it's really going to catch up with you. Speaking of catching up with you, and I'll give you a good example. Those of you that know me know that I'm a Washington Redskin fan. Hail to the Redskins. But one particular instance or example that I like to use is Tony Romo, and he's the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. Now, I can't stand the Dallas Cowboys, believe you me, I cannot stand them. But off the field, I'm very concerned about Tony Romo. Tony Romo is a great quarterback, in my opinion. He's an award-winning quarterback. Uh, you know, despite a couple of snafus, I think he could easily be a Super Bowl winning quarterback, certainly. Well, he's had a lot of injuries, back injuries, a lot of injuries, a lot of injuries, a lot of injuries, and he plays through these injuries because he's a warrior. He's constantly injured and he's constantly playing. Until this year, he just couldn't play. I forget what the injury was. It was his shoulder, I think, what eventually did him in. I think it was. Well, try and picture this guy when he's like 50 years old. He's not going to be able to walk, or he's going to be walking with some sort of difficulty. Um, Another example that comes to mind is Junior Seau, the late great Junior Seau. He suffered from what they call CTE, which is a concussion injury or a concussion syndrome, and he committed suicide. There's something terribly wrong when you have players that play in the NFL, for instance, and their heads are going through so much trauma and traumatic uh, experiences, and the jolting and the crashing constantly. It makes you think, what are we doing? You know, and I love football just as much as the next guy, but like I said, we need to come to a realization of what we're asking these football players to do on a week in and week out basis. You know, it's something to think about. And recently Peyton Manning was accused of taking HGH, human growth hormones, And even they even brought his wife into it. I think Al Jazeera printed it, came out with the report, and now they're retracting it. And certainly, if they were wrong in reporting it, I hope that Peyton Manning sues the living daylights out of him, because you just don't defame someone's character like that. But let's just say if indeed he did take these human growth hormones, okay, well it's illegal, okay, but do they need these supplements? Do they need this kind of assistance? To perform at these rates of success and at these high standards? We need to ask ourselves, what are we doing here? Whether it's Major League Baseball, the NFL, the NBA, NHL, even. What are we asking these athletes to put themselves through? What are we asking them to endure in order that we may be entertained? It's something to think about. I'm yours truly, Randy Rand, and thank you for the time.